Good morning, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order, and we have a large crowd today, and I'm so thankful for that. We're going to pledge allegiance to the flag. States of America, which stands one nation, God, indivisible, liberty. All right, I'm going to do the introduction of the officers. I'm the president. Larry, he's the vice president. Gordon, treasurer. Bruce, our secretary over there. Steve, technology and membership. Our members at large. Bob Whalen. Dan Cook. Glad to have you back, Dan. And you too, Bob. Carol Taylor, she's on vacation right now. And Dick too. Okay. And Dennis, of course, we cannot forget our donut wrangler. If not, none of us would show up if we knew donuts weren't going to be here. We're going to start out with our fallen veteran. Bob, you would come up.
Our fallen veteran to recognize this month is Gene Milbrath. And first of all, what I'd like to do is we'll have the bell and we'll have taps. And I'd like to recognize the family in the back corner. So many members of his family have come to be with us today. And so I'd like everyone to rise, please. I don't know if there are any family members who would like to say something. If they do, please raise your hand and we'll help you with that. All right, thank you all. Oh, yes, ma'am. There's a microphone right there.
Family member, I'm a friend, became a family friend of them over the last couple years. And I would like to say that it was an honor to know Gene and a great honor to know his wife, who's been not just, she's been a friend to me too. And Gene had a special place in my heart because I didn't know him when he was younger. I didn't know how to relate to him when he was younger. I didn't know what he was like. I knew what Gene was like the last couple years. And in those times when I spent time with him at his home, we'd walk around his home and I would ask him about this and he would tell me about the flowers, and he could tell me about every plant, and he could tell me what they did, and I could understand as much as I could from him. with it, but I got to understand and be able to connect and understand him. And I bring my dog out there, and he loved my dog. And got to really love Mary. And what a devoted, wonderful wife she was to him. And I'd like to be like Mary, like that, because she's just that kind of person. And Jean, I could see that he just worshiped the ground she walked on a lot of times. He just looked at her with oftentimes love in his eyes. And I saw that spark with them the night I was here visiting too, with when the band was playing. Anyhow, I just wanted to say thank you for including me as your and for being part of your life. And I was honored to know him. Thank you.
I'd like to thank so many members of the family to come and share this time with our club. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to have the quilters come up. They want to present the quilts for that they work so hard all year long to give to our veterans that are in the VA, that are in hospice. So, you're welcome.
First of all, I'm Carolyn Lapotin, and I'm president of the Quilting Club here at Sunflower. We currently have 41 members, but we didn't all fit here, so we just brought a few. I wanted to introduce Shelley. Raise your hand, Shelley, and Carrie, and they are the Community Outreach Committee, and they really spearheaded this effort to get these quilts finished. And then we have Demi, who is vice president, and Lorna, who's also a valued member. And they're going to hold up a few of the quilts, not all 24, so you won't be here all day, but just a few so you can get some idea of what we've been doing. Some of the quilts are red, white, and blue, and that's our traditional way we've been making them for you for a number of years. But we also had some people who are not in our club and not even in our Sunflower community who stepped forward and said, I'm making quilts for the vets too. And we said, absolutely. And they chose to make bright colors, and they thought maybe there would be those in hospice who would prefer something other than red, white, and blue, and they'll have that option. So we are delighted to be giving you 24 quilts today. And I just have a very short poem I'm going to read to you. Needle, thread, and many a hand, these quilts must be special, the quilters understand. For these quilts, often red, white, and blue, are going to some, the most deserving, their due. May they provide some comfort, warmth, and good wishes. May recipients feel the respect and love woven with the stitches. Please accept our gifts to you, our heartfelt thanks for all that you do. Important too, we want to say, for your service, we thank you every day. So that's it for us. Thank you.
Okay, today we have our speaker is Leslie Bryant. She is a trainer from the Soldier's Best Friend. And this is a nonprofit that trains service dogs for vets with PTSD.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here today. We'd like to share with you about our program, who we are, what we do, how you can help, or how you can be a part of our wonderful nonprofit. In 2011, Dr. John Burnham, a veterinarian in Peoria, Arizona, saw veterans coming into his office with their dogs and saw what an impact those dogs made on the veterans. He said some of the veterans would come in with their dog who was sick, and say they just weren't sure how they were going to go on if their dog wasn't beside them. And it spurred in him an innate need to help veterans, even though he was not a veteran himself, nor is he from a veteran family. He lost his mother to suicide in the early years, and he saw that happening to our veterans. And he asked his friend, how can I help? How can we make sure that we don't lose a single veteran to suicide? And his friend said, why don't you start a nonprofit and train those dogs to be service dogs for their veterans? And handed him a check to start the organization in 2011. Since 2011, we have rescued over 350 dogs from local shelters and rescues and paired them up with veterans to train as their service dog side by side at absolutely no cost to the veteran. These service dogs go through a plethora of training to get ready for public access. We accept veterans into the program that are combat veterans with a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury. Once they're accepted into the program, we then go out to a shelter to see if we can find a dog that will match their personality. One of the teams that is here with me today, Alexei and Cannon. Cannon was rescued from our shelter in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and placed with Alexei, and they graduated last year. So we're happy to have them here with us today. Once the dog is placed with the veteran at no cost, we do the training, which is approximately 6 to 9 months, sometimes up to a year, to train them in public access and how to do specific tasks to mitigate the veteran's disability. Everyone's PTSD and traumatic brain injury manifests differently, so each one of our training sessions is tailored specifically to that veteran, not just training a dog and placing it with a veteran with a generic task. During that training process, we teach the veteran how to navigate life with a service dog, how to get back out into doing the things that they love to do, and get out of their house and enjoy life once again. And we teach that dog to be able to tolerate being out in a public place. It's not an easy thing for the veteran or the dog. They go through a minimum of 180 hours of training to go through this process. They start with basic obedience, go through the AKC Canine Good Citizen test, and then they start their public access. And during that public access portion is probably the most difficult for the veteran, even more so than the dog, because we've hidden away for so long that it's hard for us to get back out and navigate that. So we teach the dog to help the veteran in that instance. We go through restaurant outings. Once again, being able to go out with our families and eat, and having our dog right there with us to task if we need them. We go through movie theaters, the mall, which is usually the most difficult. We go to grocery stores, department stores. We even do a barbershop outing if the veteran decides he wants to get his hair cut at the barbershop again. If not, we let them pick a specific outing, something they want to do that they haven't done again. We go to the Phoenix airport and we travel through TSA and actually get on board a live aircraft that Southwest has arranged for us, so we can teach you how to fly with your service dog. And I would say, Alexei, was that probably the most difficult, the airport? So we do that in a time when the airport is actively open. We don't shut down the airport and go through. We go through just as if we were getting on board an aircraft. So teaching that dog and teaching that veteran how to get through life again is one of our biggest goals. Some of the challenges that we face are public access. Not everyone thinks that dogs should be in local public places. So we teach the veteran how to navigate and answer those questions that are specific to the ADA so they can go into places with their service dog and not be challenged, or know how to answer those questions if they are challenged. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're just trying to go into the grocery store and get a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread and get back out again. And everyone wants to stop you and talk to you about your dog and ask you questions or challenge you for being in that public place. But having that dog, all of the energy and attention is focused on the dog. So you can now have something in common that you wouldn't normally have with a random person in the grocery store. And you take it into your head and you say, this is my dog. This is what he does. This is what he does for me. Rather than just beelining to the grocery store, getting your milk and getting out. So it gives you a purpose. It gives you a focus. And then we ask you to come back and be a mentor to our new teams that are coming into the program. We have 2 trainers in the Tucson area. So our program is ramping up here in the Tucson area. We're getting ready to hire an additional trainer in this area. So if we have more applicants, we'll have more trainers and be able to service Tucson even more. In the beginning, I was driving up from Sierra Vista to train the veterans here in the Tucson area. I have about 15 graduates just from the Tucson area alone, and I would drive up and do their training twice a week. So having trainers here in Tucson has really helped us open up and be able to add this to one of our places. We currently train in Sierra Vista, Tucson. Our headquarters is in Phoenix and Peoria. We train in the East and West Valley there. We also have trainers in Flagstaff, Prescott, and we recently just hired an additional trainer in Kingman. So we're branching out and getting the word out across the state of Arizona. We're local to the state of Arizona. We don't train outside of Arizona, but if you have veteran friends that could use our services that are willing to come to the state for 6 to 9 months for the training process, we will do that, train the dog, and then they can go back home and have their service dog. One of the things that we look for when we're going to get dogs from shelters is a dog that would rather come and spend time with a human than go play in a group of dogs. So we'll evaluate those dogs, make sure they have a good, solid temperament, that they're not scared of things. Sometimes they do have some fear of thunder, cannon, which has been terrible during monsoon season, but he's fearless otherwise. He helps Alexei on a daily basis. Being able to go back to the VA and navigate all of the crowded spaces and everyone there and having your service dog can be much, much better than trying to go on your own. In fact, we've had teams that have graduated that wouldn't go to the VA until they had their service dog. And they have told me that now I can go to the VA and feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable sitting there waiting for my appointments because I have this companion beside me that's going to take care of me in those situations. So what tasks can a dog do for someone with PTSD? And as I said, all of our PTSD is manifested differently. I don't like people coming up behind me. So my dog can create space behind me and be that barrier between me and people coming up behind me. They're not mean. They're not aggressive in any way. They're just a space. Most dogs we train to lean into the veteran from behind to let them realize that there's someone back there. If someone's approaching, the dog will lean in, put a little bit of pressure on your legs, and then you know someone is approaching you from behind. So creating space is one of the biggest ones that I think we have veterans ask us for. We also have them alerting to episodes, whether it be episodes of anger. Most traumatic brain injuries will manifest with anger issues, and we can have the dog alert to when you're starting to get to that boiling point and then make you pay attention to the dog instead of your own head. Basically, the dog says, hey, get out of your head and pay attention to me because I'm more important than you are right now. And we also have dogs that can do deep pressure therapy. You start feeling really bad, poorly, getting depressed, staying inside. The dog will lay on your feet or lay across your body, provide deep pressure, which is a soothing and relieving motion. It helps lower your blood pressure, lower your heart rate, and gets you back into the center of the here and now instead of spending time in your head in that space that's got all of those memories and all of those things that are driving you crazy. So dogs can help with that. They live in the here and now. They don't care what happened yesterday. They don't care what's going to happen tomorrow. They only care what's going to happen right now. And so they help us stay in the here and now and help us maneuver and get back into that lifestyle that we really enjoyed in the past. Ways that you can help Soldier's Best Friend if you're thinking, okay, I don't need a dog, but I want to help. And we have several ways that you can help. One, we are a nonprofit, a qualifying Arizona charity. So you're matched dollar for dollar on your Arizona state taxes if you give to our organization. We also have a need for fosters. So when we adopt dogs from the local shelter or rescue, we don't immediately place them with the veteran. Most of them go into a foster home so that we can make sure there are no behaviors that we didn't see when we did our evaluation before we place that dog with a veteran. A lot of times dogs in the shelter will hide their true selves. And then after they've been out for about 3 weeks, we say, oh, that's why you were there. And sometimes that behavior is not becoming of a service dog, and we can't fix it because we're never going to fix genetics. So our fosters go to our trainers once a week, and they help us evaluate those dogs before we actually place them in the hands of the veteran. So we can rule out some of that behavior that we may have missed in the shelter system. So fosters are a great way to help. You assist in taking our dogs to our veterinary clinics to get updated shots or x-rays before they're placed with the veteran. And then we have assistant trainers. So we don't always have a need for volunteers during our training process, but occasionally when we start doing that public access, we like to have folks that know how to ask the questions, know how to approach a veteran, and challenge them with public access questions before the real thing happens. That way, if the veteran answers wrong, there's not a lot of stress knowing that someone's going to kick you out of a store because you didn't answer the question correctly. So we have volunteers that will sometimes show up to our training processes and act as the general public, milling about, distracting the dog, trying to keep the dog's focus on them instead of the veteran so that we can teach the dog that the veteran is the most important thing, not the public. So occasionally we have those needs. We also do events around the state. Occasionally we have things here in Tucson. We do the stand down, and us staff members are busy doing other things, or we only have an hour that we can spend at an event that might be an 8-hour event. And so some of our volunteers will assist us to sit at a table with us, sit at a table with our veteran graduates, and answer questions about the program. So that's another way that you can be involved if you're not interested in being a part of the program and just occasionally sitting at a table with us. On our website, we do have applications for volunteers and for fosters, and you can just fill it out on the website and someone will contact you. Alexei, would you and Cannon just come up for a moment? I told Alexei he doesn't have to speak. He just has to be here and look pretty today. So generally all eyes are on Cannon anyway. We've recently started a prison program where we take dogs from the shelter, place them in the prison with our inmates, and the inmate handlers are training those dogs before we place them with the veteran. And the way I met Cannon was I borrowed him from the shelter to take to the prison with me one day to interview inmates that were interested in being a part of our program. And while the inmates were working with Cannon, every single one of them that interviewed that day came up and said, man, this dog is great. Is he going to be a part of the program? Well, we didn't really have a need at the moment for a dog from that shelter. And I said, no, unfortunately, he's got to go back to the shelter. We don't have a need for him right now. And then Alexei, I did his interview and he needed a dog. And I immediately thought of Cannon. I said, you know what? I think this is a good match for you. So Cannon was still in the shelter in Sierra Vista, and Alexei came down and met him. And I think it was a pretty perfect match.
It's been great so far.
Alexei took about a year to get through the program. And sometimes, like I said, it's 6 to 9 months, but things happen, life happens, family members pass away, emergencies happen. I have to drive all the way from Sierra Vista to Tucson, so I can't do it every single week. So it took us a little longer to get through than what we typically do, but that doesn't mean we give up on you, and it doesn't mean that we just throw you to the wolves. We make sure that we take the time it takes to get it right, and we get you through our program and back out into life. So I appreciate you coming today so that they can see this wonderful dog that has a second chance, and that they can meet this wonderful veteran that has a second chance as well.
Thank you guys for having me.
I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I usually leave lots more time at the end for questions because I typically get a lot more questions than I thought I was going to. Yes.
Is there some kind of specific identification for the dog so that a bystander such as myself know that it's a trained dog?
There-
Because you see in the grocery store people with homemade signs with their pet there.
That's an excellent question. The ADA says that a dog does not have to be identified by any type of a vest or placard that it is a service dog. It simply has to be trained to do the specific tasks for the individual. However, those of us that are in the program and have trained our dogs through a program, we usually put the vest on, identifying them as a service dog for 2 reasons. One, it does keep the general public from pestering us. And sometimes those dogs understand better that they are on duty and working when they have the vest on. And we let them take a break and run around without the vest. And they can start to understand that the vest is on, I'm at work, I'm only allowed to take care of my human. And then when I'm off work, I don't have to have the vest on and I can play. But there is not a requirement for that vest or that identifier.
He knows when he has to clock in, basically.
When you're selecting dogs, are there particular breeds or sizes that you're looking for?
We specifically look for a dog that's going to match the veteran's personality. So if they want a smaller dog and they don't need any type of mobility tasks, then that's what we look for. We won't adopt pit bulls or Rottweilers out of the shelter system simply because we don't have any history on them. And it's a little bit more difficult to navigate public access with a vicious looking dog, even though they might not be vicious. There's some pretty sweet pit bulls out there, but with all of the access problems, we don't want to add that stress to our veterans by explaining that their service dog can have public access, even though it is a banned breed. However, if the veteran has their own dog that they would like to bring into the program that's between the ages of 9 months and 3 years, and we evaluate that dog for temperament, it can be any breed. We don't discriminate those breeds. We just don't adopt some of them from the shelters.
Wonderful program. Thank you.
Everybody loves Labradors. Do they make really good service dogs?
Some Labradors make great service dogs. Other Labradors only want to retrieve things and only want to play with the ball. So it really depends on the Labrador, and it depends on what the veteran's needs are or what the person's needs are for those tasks. If you have a need for retrieval, if you have a traumatic brain injury and you're very dizzy trying to bend over and pick things up, then labs or retrievers make great service dogs for being able to do that. If you need mobility assistance, like bracing or just kind of keeping your balance, the larger labs make great dogs for that. However, they mature a little bit slower than some other dogs, so we have to wait until they're more on the 3.5 years. We start them at 3, just to make sure that they have all of that goofy lab energy out before they start to do public access work.
Got one veteran with Great Danes and the giant dog. So.
Yeah, one of our Tucson veterans here has a Great Dane. So that was his dog. We don't adopt dogs that are going to be over 90 pounds from the shelter because it is a lot more difficult if you're going to do any type of traveling with a dog that large. They don't fit under the seat in front of you. So you have to purchase an additional seat and sometimes an additional 2 seats in order to have the floor space for a dog that large to be able to fly with you. So because this program is free to veterans, we try to make it so that it is a lot less costly throughout the process of having a dog. You still have to pay to have a dog. You have veterinary fees, you have food, you have emergencies. So even though it's a free program and we assist with those veterinary fees, you get discounts if you go to our participating veterinarians. But there is still some personal cost involved just for owning a dog. We like to tell folks that you need to have a minimum of $3,500 worth of disposable income just to have a pet dog. So you might want to bump that up when you're looking at a service dog, because service dogs need to be clean and well groomed. You're probably going to bathe them and, depending on the breed, take them to a groomer a lot more frequently than you would your pet dog that's not going out to the restaurant and the grocery stores and public places. So there is some personal cost involved, even though the program and the training is free to you. Any other questions? We're happy to answer anything that you might have. Correct. They would need to have some place to live in a stable home environment in order for us to place a dog with them. Well, thank you so very much. So with our prison program, I'm really excited to do that because I am the prison program director. I started that program with Soldier's Best Friend a 1.5 years ago. And we started out at the Fort Grant State Prison, which is between Wilcox and Safford. It's a men's minimum security prison. It used to be an Army base, so the inmates actually live in old housing units. So it's a lot different than what you think of in a prison environment where there's lots of bars and things. They actually took a house and converted it to 6 bedrooms. So 6 of the inmates that are in our program live in that housing unit, and they each have a crate and a dog that they're training to place with our veterans. And we use that program more for folks who are not quite as light on their feet as they used to be. When we get these dogs out of the shelter, most of them have been turned into the shelter because of behavior issues or because the owner just didn't want to spend the time to teach the dog how to walk on a leash. And so we get these dogs out, and while we see the potential, they're like alligators on a string, and they just roll around on a leash, or they pull, or they don't want to walk on a leash. And so those inmates are helping us to train that loose leash walking skill before we place them with a veteran that might have a little bit more difficulty training that skill, because it is a very difficult skill to teach. And it's really expanded our ability to assist and help more Vietnam veterans simply because we can have that training, pre-training done with the dog before we place them with you. And you're a lot less stressed going into this program, because you are actually the one that trains the dog. Our professional trainers meet with you twice a week for an hour each time, and they give you homework to work on, but the dog lives with you during the process, and you do the training of the dog. And so helping that, having that prison program be able to help us do that has been a great boon to us. We recently also just expanded into the women's prison in Phoenix at Perryville. So we have 5 dogs that are living with female inmates and being trained for our veterans up in the Perryville area as well. So we're really, really excited to be able to add that to our program. Yes. There is some emotional stress when it comes to that. However, when we're looking at like our prison programs, our inmates are very strict. They do a structured training process. They're not allowed to sleep with the dog. The dog has to be in a crate. The dog has to be crated when they're not actively training. They don't get to sit around and be best buddies with the dog. They're literally acting as if they were a board and train facility where the dog does the training and then goes in a crate, spends its crate time, and then goes out and does more training. So it's less stress than what you would think happens with a dog. The biggest challenge we've had with this program is that the dog is in a very structured training process in the prison. And then when we place it with the veteran lets the dog do whatever it wants because and so the dog starts getting stressed because they're used to having structure, and then all of a sudden they don't have any structure. So we've come up with a process, whereas those dogs coming out are very structured, very detailed instructions on how to change that dog onto the schedule of the veteran as opposed to the schedule in the prison. So it's a lot less emotional stress than you would think because we ask them not to bond with the dog during that training process. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And sometimes that happens even though we're not living and training with the dog. Cannon never lived with me, but I rescued him from the shelter. I drove him out of the shelter, and then I saw him once or twice a week with Alexei. So when Cannon sees me, he still goes a little crazy because I'm his savior. And so that does happen with our dogs. It happens a lot with our trainers because the trainer all of a sudden is the fun time, and our dogs start to bond with the trainers in addition to the veterans. But because dogs live in the moment, it's very easy to transfer that bond to the veteran and make them understand that that's where all good things are coming from.
Obviously,
go
you
this-
have to have money. Where's that come from?
So all of our money comes from grants and donations. We are specifically a wholly nonprofit. We do events and ask for public donations. We do write for grants, and we do get grants from different organizations. But that all of our money comes from the local public grants and donations. I have difficulty explaining anything about taxes. However, qualified non-charitable organizations with the state of Arizona, if you donate to that organization, you get a 1-for-1 tax credit on your Arizona state taxes. So if you filed for your state taxes and say you owe $700 to the state, if you write a $700 check to Soldier's Best Friend, then you no longer owe the $700 to the state of Arizona. It goes directly to the organization as opposed to going to the state for your state taxes. I do not know the answer to that question. However, I have some flyers over on the table, and I believe that it explains it on that postcard.
I have a question. How does this program work when there's a spouse involved in the with the veteran?
That is a very good question. So we ask the spouse to kind of be hands off with the dog when it's bonding with the veteran. So the dog starts to understand that it is taking care of that veteran specifically, and not to, so the spouse doesn't interfere. And we've had a lot of veterans that come into the program where the spouse is the caregiver for the veteran, and we engage the spouse in the training process. And I try to explain to them that this might be the point where all of a sudden your veteran doesn't depend on you as much. And sometimes that can be very challenging because we are used to taking care and being 100% the shoulder to cry on and the sounding board for our veterans. And now all of a sudden there is a dog in the picture. And I have had spouses say to me, I think he loves that dog more than he does me. Which is not true. It's just now you don't have to be the sounding board for every single issue that your veteran is having, because he can talk to the dog and he knows the dog's not going to talk back. And he know and he knows that the dog is going to listen, at least with one ear cocked. But it doesn't mean that the spouse can't touch the dog. It doesn't mean that the spouse can't interact with the dog. We just ask that that not happen until the dog really understands that it's bonded specifically with that veteran and how to take care of the veteran. I can say that my own service dog, who is now retired, when I would go out with my spouse, sometimes she was really concerned if he was on another grocery store aisle than I was. She was like, "Oh, where's dad? Where's dad? Where's dad?" And and so we would have to bring him around and have him give her some commands and tell her to stay with me. But if you work through it, it typically, and make sure that it's only the veteran that's giving all of the good things to the dog, then typically that dog understands that I'm here working for you. So even when she was really concerned with where he was, she was still taking care of me.
So whenever the dog actually, when he needs to go to the vet or anything, then she always is keen to remind me that it's my dog at that point. So,
Any other questions? Yes. So our dogs, once they're placed and graduated from the program, they stay with the family. If the veteran passes away and the family wants to keep that dog, then we allow them to keep the dog on as a pet. We do ask that we are right of first refusal. So if that were to happen and the family decided they didn't want to keep the dog, then we would ask them to contact us so that we can either place the dog with another veteran, depending on how old the dog is, or find an adopter for that dog. But usually it's the other way around. And that can be a very difficult thing for you when your service dog passes away. What do you do? And that has happened to me. So now, then I got another service dog. And with the Soldier's Best Friend program, if you're accepted, you are followed throughout the life of that dog and throughout your life. And if you need to come back through the program for another dog, then you just reapply to the program and we find you another dog. Or if you have a dog of your own that meets criteria, you can come back through the program with a dog of your own. We have a veteran in Sierra Vista that has been through the program twice with two different dogs. One passed away, and then he got another dog, and he had her for several years, and she recently passed away. And he's at the point where he's like, you know what, I don't need you to be my trainer anymore. I've been through the program twice and I know what I'm doing, so I'm going to train my own service dog. But we still keep in contact. I was his trainer for the second service dog, and he still contacts me and asks me questions and stops by the office every once in a while. We've had several veterans in the Phoenix area who have been through our program more than once, and we welcome you back with open arms. And we like to say that once you're a part of our family, you're a part of our family for the rest of your life. Recently, we had a graduation here in Tucson, and one of the teams that I trained in Sierra Vista, whose dog passed away 2 years ago, I think, he came to the graduation, and I've been in contact with him several times, and he says his dog got him to the place where he can now function and he doesn't need a service dog anymore. And he said, you know, I might, when I retire or when I stop working and I'm not in my comfort zone anymore, but Tiny got me to the place where I needed to be, where I could actually go back out and enjoy life again. And so it's not always just because you have a service dog now that you need one for the rest of your life. It's not a cure-all. It is tool to help you with your other processes of getting better. And I would say that it is an immense help, but it is still an animal. It's not a robot. So the dogs make mistakes and can get sick, and we want to make sure that you understand that it's not just a cure-all for anything, that you also need to be seeking other avenues of help for your PTSD or traumatic brain injury. Yes, ma'am.
Choice between a male or female dog? Is there any differences in the training?
They're typically the only difference in the training of a male and a female is teaching the male not to hike their leg on everything that they come across. However, my first service dog, my Karelian bear dog, her philosophy was she who pees highest wins. And so it was difficult to teach her that she couldn't hike her leg on everything that she walked by. But there really isn't a difference in training the dog. We typically leave that preference up to the veteran. Some veterans prefer a female dog or a male dog. So when they're accepted into the program, we do a thorough evaluation of what their needs are and what their likes and dislikes are. We're not guaranteed to find a specific breed in the shelter because most purebred dogs don't end up in the shelter. So what we get out of the shelter generally are just mixes and mutts. And so we will typically ask you, what do you not like in a dog? Because it's easier for us to find a dog that might fit your needs if we know what you don't like than if we have a specific set of parameters that you do like when we go to the shelter. So when we do that evaluation, we're looking at, do you prefer male or female? Do you prefer long hair or short hair? Do you prefer a large dog over 60 pounds or medium size between 40 and 60? Or would you prefer something smaller? Small dogs can do just as much as large dogs do when we're looking at PTSD service dogs. So a psychiatric service dog does create that deep pressure, tactile stimulation, and creating space around you. One of our graduates from here in Tucson, he wanted a small dog that would fit in his lap. And his previous dog had been a Chihuahua. And I found an amazing long-haired Chihuahua Terrier in the shelter. It was Chris and Kari. She was only about this big. And she can create space just as well as Cannon can. She stands out a little bit farther from the veteran to be able to create that space, but she will circle the handler and give him that bubble of space so that people aren't crowding right up against them. And so it doesn't really matter what size it is, as long as the size matches your disability and your requirements for those tasks.
I meet two of the requirements that you mentioned today. If I was to apply and I have a choice of my own dog, would you rather interview me first and then give a suggestion for what animal?
So if you already have a dog now and you apply, so if you don't have a dog now and you're looking at, I want to go out and get my own dog, we would ask that you have us evaluate the dog even before you got into the program and let you know whether we think the temperament is right or not. There is still a hip x-ray that needs to be done. So if you're looking at adopting a dog and it's getting spayed or neutered, it's best to do those x-rays when they're already under on the table and make sure that they don't have hip dysplasia, because we want to make sure the dog's got longevity and is going to be able to work pain-free for most of its life. But if you're looking to get into the program and you don't have a dog now and you want to get your own dog, then give us a call and say, hey, I want an application. I'm going to be putting in my application, but I want to go get this dog. Do you have someone in the local area, or can I take the dog somewhere to get it evaluated for temperament before I pull the trigger, so to speak, to adopt this dog and then have a dog that isn't going to work for me? Typically, yes. So we ask lots of questions about what you want to get out of the program, the things that you want to do that you aren't doing anymore, your skill level as a dog trainer, the kind of size that you're looking for. Sometimes we have this notion in our head that a specific breed is exactly what we want. And sometimes those breeds just don't have the genetic characteristics to do the things that you need them to do, as opposed to just being a pet dog. It costs us anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000 to adopt a dog from the shelter, pay for its medical bills, and go through the training process together. 10,000 is usually about the max. 7,500 is generally what it costs. But again, if the veteran has to be in the program longer, say, then it's going to start costing us more to be able to do that training process. Yes. Correct. The veteran pays absolutely nothing to be in the program. We adopt the dog, that we pay for the adoption fees for the dog and the medical bills for the dog while you're going through the program. And then once you graduate from the program, those medical bills would then you would start paying for any veterinary fees that the dog incurs. But if you take it to one of our participating veterinarians, they give you discounts based on graduation from the program. They're usually about 20%. It is. Correct. Right. And there are a lot of pets out there that are not getting the veterinary care that they need. Not that we've been able to get at no cost, but we encourage our veterans to get pet insurance because it is usually cheaper than paying for emergencies. But our participating veterinarians, I believe they do a 20% discount.
Like I know here in like Marana, for example, at least 3 clinics within like a 2-mile radius around here. Like the one that I go to is down by Fry's, and I want to say that they're participating and they do like a 15% discount. Which again, it's not a lot, but at least it's enough for like the monthly, like the heartworm preventative, all those things. Like it adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we thank you for having us here today, and we'll be here milling about. Feel free to ask us any questions while we're here. I do have brochures and business cards on the table over there, and if you'd like, I can leave some of those brochures here with you. So if you have members, or if you just have folks that you encounter that you want to tell about the program, we'll leave some brochures with you today so that you can have those to hand out. Thank you.
We'd like to give a donation
Oh,
to your organization.
thank you very much.
And you
Oh, thank you. Robert, can you get a picture? I know, Alexia, you just sat down, but we'll go in front of.
Okay. $300. Yes, we gave a $300 donation to their organization. Yeah. Okay, we'll do the treasurer's report now.
Good morning. All right, this is the treasurer's report for the period of September the 1st through the 30th. We started with a beginning balance of $3,091.74. On the 3rd, I made a deposit of $854. That consisted of a $675 portion of barbecue tickets, a $50 portion from the Nelson family in the honor of Don Schmidt, and a $20 late chicken dinner payment from Alan, and a $91 portion from the tin can. $854, kind of all broken up. On the 12th, I made a $707 deposit, which was $164 of barbecue ticket sales from 9/11. On 9/2, there was $438 of barbecue ticket sales, and also $105 of bingo donations. Danelle Lordy, $65. Judith Davis, $20, and an anonymous $20. I don't know who gave it to bingo runners, but thank you, whoever it was, $105. On the 20th, Tim and Kay Walter gave me a $250 check, which I think had to do with the sale of a home off Sunflower for his son-in-law, Larry's son-in-law. It's kind of convoluted, but Tim and Kay always come through with money somehow, and that's how that came about. So if you're listening, Tim and Kay, thank you. And on the 30th, a $480.01 PayPal ticket sale came through. I'm not really sure how the $480.01 breakthrough happens, but PayPal takes a little chunk. So thank you for the ticket sales there. Expenses on the 2nd, $69.46. Dennis, donuts. Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate your writing. On the 3rd, today you saw we wrote a check for $300 to the Sunflower Quilters for their fine work of donating. When I'm volunteering at the VA on Fridays, we see their quilts and the work that they do, and it's appreciated, and they do good work, and the VA can use it. On the 15th, we started the process of the 501c3 beginning to get our status as a organization that is a tax-free. So I wrote the first check and it's been cashed. So we're on our way to becoming a 501c3 organization. That first check went through and cashed. We now have as of the 30th, a closing balance of $4,973.29 to be exact. Questions? Thanks.
Like, I was going to say, I can't live without that. Thank you. Okay, so old business, of course, we have our fall barbecue. We have our fall barbecue coming up here Saturday. And then we have Music Under the Stars, where we're going to be providing the hamburgers and chips and soda and stuff. So we have that all covered and plenty of volunteers for that. And yes, we are, but the cooks are going to be making the burgers. Yes. And you're going to be the money taker. So, yeah, so we're looking forward to Music Under the Stars. It's going to be a good event. We have the Beatles group coming to play. So we're expecting a pretty big turnout. So we'll have our work cut out for us. Now, of course, under new business, our club is now going to be a community charter club. So I don't know if you need to expound on that, Larry, at all.
Well, we became a charter club again. We were a charter club. We quit being a charter club because of the money situation and the HOA being involved and all of that. The HOA has changed its policies. They don't have anything to do with our money anymore. So we became a charter club again because of some other issues that came up with other clubs using us as an example. So we decided to become a charter club again. The board decided that. And it doesn't really do anything other than get us preference on meeting rooms and rooms for all of our events without having other charter clubs being able to kick us out. That's never happened because we're such a large organization and everybody appreciates what we do. So it's never been an issue, but it came up a couple of times from other clubs. So we decided to become a charter club again. And then we also, the board decided to become a 501c3. And we've started that process. The first check that Gordon cut was for becoming an LLC, because you have to become a corporation before you can become a 501c3. So we're in the process of becoming a corporation. As soon as we get that, we'll file with the IRS. It's going to cost us another couple $100 to do that filing. And then hopefully we will then get the approval to be a 501c3, and all the donations we get at that time are fully tax deductible. So that's the direction we're headed with the 501c3.
Okay. Do we have any new or returning attendees? Would you stand up, introduce yourself, and give us a little bit of background about you?
Okay, well, let's see. We'll start in high school. I got drafted in 1967, and after a year in the Army, I met a LERP. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm Robert Klimp. I'm sorry. And, well, we worked with the Merrill's Marauders. Merrill's Marauders was our grandfather unit to Rangers and LERPs. LERPs are a long-range reconnaissance patrol. Some of the older guys here might remember what that is all about, but it was great. And we worked together and did most of our missions in I Corps in Vietnam, 68, 69. And I came home, and that was it. I said, thank you and goodbye.
We have Art from the DAV. I would just like him to come up and just say a few words about what he was talking to me about, things that the DAV does for veterans. So, Art, if you would just say a word or two, we would appreciate that.
I've been around here for about 6, 7 years. I've been gone for a couple of years. There's some health reasons. I wanted to tell you about the DAV, what we're doing. You guys donate a lot of money to us, and I want to thank you for that. But what we do is we work with veterans filing claims for accidents, injuries, whatever occurred while you were in service. Right now, we're starting a auxiliary for non-veterans that want to volunteer. Their objective is going to be to advise the spouses of what their benefits are when the veteran passes, because we get a lot of spouses come in and they have no idea what their benefits are. So as you know, we do claims. We do about 150 people a month average. So we're very busy. We have 15 service officers in the office, and anybody that is less than 100%, I don't know what your rating is, but if you haven't been re-adjudicated in the last 5 years, as we get older, our conditions get worse. You need to come back in and let us take a look at it. I'm one of the guys that if you have a rating of 50% or more, I don't like to touch those. But I mean 10s, 20s, 30s, come in. As we get older, our condition gets worse, and we can get you an increase in your rating. That's about it, I think. So, also we have a program that we collect medical equipment. And I've been up here a couple of times and told y'all, if you need a hospital bed, electric wheelchair, a manual wheelchair, crutches, we have it, and it's all for free. So if you want to donate anything, we have a crew that'll come and pick it up. Just call our office and we'll come and pick it up. But if you need it, for however long, come and pick it up. It's free of charge. Any questions? We're located on Ina Road, right near the Lowe's. We're in the shopping center next door, right behind the Bisbee Breakfast Club. We've been there for 15 years, so. Anyway, if I can assist you guys in any way, give us a call, okay? Thank you.
Okay, Bob Whalen would like to say a little something here, and then we'll be able to adjourn the meeting.
I was gone for a couple of months this summer, and some people tease me about that. But while I was gone, I found a little prayer for veterans. And as I was reading this myself, I wanted to mention it here. But while I say this little prayer, I want you to be thinking about the family and friends who are veterans who have passed away, yourselves, and any other people that you would like to think about as veterans as I say this. Well, God, our Heavenly Father, you have blessed us with brave men and women who are willing to defend our freedom. May your protection and grace surround them each day. Let your healing hand be upon them who suffer wounds and injuries. May those who have made the ultimate sacrifice rest forever in your holy presence. Comfort the families who mourn and are left to remember the precious lives of those loved ones. Help us to honor and support them. Let us ever be mindful of each sacrifice made on behalf of the American people by our sons, daughters, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, and friends. Amen.
For the good of the cause, I'm up here to remind everybody that this month is the Navy's birthday, 250th, the Navy. You know, the Air Force, well, the Air Force was a couple months ago and nobody even paid any attention to it. Because it was only like 47 years old. And the Marine Corps is 250 next month. So, and the Army was 250 years old in July. So the military, a lot of birthdays came up this year, 250th. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. Another thing that's coming up, since you're all residents, you're all allowed to vote. So please get out and vote for the HOA board, for the CCNR changes, all of that. Just get out and vote. I don't care if you vote for it or against it. Just be sure to go out and vote. And just to remind everybody, I am running for the board. Yes, sir. You don't. It's Shire.
Okay, our next membership meeting is is it? Larry, you took my sheet. It's November 5th is our next membership meeting. I think Dick too wants to say something here. It's okay. I can't live without it.
The table on the left are shirts that were donated to us as a club by the person that does our embroidering. So if you decide to buy one of the colored shirts on the left, $15 or $20 will of what you pay for the shirt embroidered will come right back to the club. The other thing, the club is encouraging everybody, if you're just going to get one embroidered shirt, to get a red one, and they're on the right-hand side. Both of them would be for sale when we're through. Thank you.
Okay. We adjourn. God bless everybody and have a wonderful day.